up, we take a look at the 2026 LSU baseball schedule as a whole, non-conference and SEC play. What are potentially some bumps in the road for LSU? What stretches in the schedule this year provide LSU baseball and Jay Johnson with the biggest challenges this season? We'll go over this and so much more on a brand new edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is indeed Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Hope you folks are having a great one. I thank you guys as always. I really appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. But we are only 3 days away, folks. Only 3 days away from first pitch. And I am so pumped and so freaking excited. It's the best time. One of the best times every single year for LSU fans, LSU sports fans, is when LSU baseball starts. They provide us so much joy, so much happiness. I mean, 2 national championships in the last 3 years. Think about all that Jay Johnson has done, all the amazing work that he's done in the past 4 years at LSU. The best college baseball coach in the entire country, and I can't wait for the season to start once again. But I thought leading up to opening day, leading up to first pitch, one of the things we could do is talk about the schedule as a whole for the Tigers this season. Non-conference and SEC play, which obviously, as in every year, the SEC schedule is a brute because the SEC is, without a doubt, it's not even close, the best conference in college baseball. I mean, the kings of college baseball come from the SEC. Think about all the national championships that different SEC teams have won. You know, the SEC has really dominated the national stage the past few seasons in college baseball, and they continue to do that every year. So, like every year, the SEC schedule is a brute. But the first 4 weeks of the season, so about a little over 20 games, the first a little over 20 games of the season, the first 4 weeks, it's non-conference play. And when you take a look at non-conference play before LSU, it starts February 13th, this Friday against Milwaukee. Your first SEC game isn't until Friday, March 13th. So you have a full month of non-conference play. And when you take a look at it, it's a home-heavy non-conference schedule as usual, with only 4 of the 25 non-conference games that the Tigers play this season being away from Alex Box Stadium. So after Milwaukee, Friday through Sunday of this weekend, you play Milwaukee in 3 games. And then you could also count Monday, next Monday afternoon, you play a game against Kent State as well. So you could also throw that in there as well. So you have those 3 games Friday through Sunday against Milwaukee. You have Kent State on Monday. So that's kind of your opening weekend schedule. But then after that, really the second weekend of the season for the Tigers presents the stiffest non-conference test for LSU when they head down to Jacksonville to play in 3 games Friday through Sunday against Indiana, Notre Dame, and UCF in Jacksonville in the Live Like Lou Jack's Baseball Classic honoring Lou Gehrig. And that's gonna be a stiff test for LSU. It's not the highest level of competition in the Power 4, Indiana, Notre Dame, and UCF kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of Power 4 teams. So it's not the hardest Power 4 competition you could get out of conference, but that's probably the toughest weekend of these first 4 weekends that LSU has to play that in the Jack's Baseball Classic in Jacksonville. But it's always fun getting to see the Tigers go early in the season and play in some of these tournaments. So that's always fun. Weekend number 3 of non-conference is headlined by 2 games against Northeastern University. Northeastern was a team that made a regional last year. They finished in the top 25 in RPI last season, and they finished the regular season last year, Northeastern did, with a 27-game win streak. So Northeastern's one of the toughest tests that LSU is going to play in the non-conference. Then they play them in week 3. I believe in weekend 3, of non-conference play in Alex Box Stadium. LSU plays Dartmouth twice, and they play Northeastern twice. And that's going to be those Northeastern games. You're talking about a regional team. Last year, a team finished top 25 in the RPI. Finished the regular season with a 27-game win streak. So they're coming off a very successful season. Northeastern is in 2025. You have Sacramento State in 3 games in Alex Box Stadium in weekend number 4. And then you get into SEC play. So I'll list, you have 30 SEC games. You have 10 3-game series over, from March 13th to about the middle to end of May in the regular season. And I'll go over the 10 series you have. You start March 13th at number 23 Vanderbilt in a 3-game series. Then you have Oklahoma in Alex Box. You have number 18 Kentucky in Alex Box. You go on the road at number 15 Tennessee, at Ole Miss after that. Then you host in Alex Box number 25 Texas A&M. You travel on the road to number 4 Mississippi State, which that's no joke. Brian O'Connor comes over from Virginia. They had a really good offseason, and going into his first season, Mississippi State is the number 4 team in the country. Then after that, you have South Carolina and Alex Box Stadium. Pulmonary returning to Baton Rouge. You play at number 14 Georgia, and then you close out the season hosting number 13 Florida. So as always, as I mentioned, the SEC is no joke. It's a brute every year. And LSU plays 7 teams in the D1 baseball top 25. Seven top 25 teams in 10 weekends LSU plays. So again, pretty much every weekend outside of 3, you're playing top 25 teams, preseason top 25 teams in the country. So as always, it's a difficult schedule. And I think what stands out to me as the hardest part of the schedule for LSU is the road conference slate. And that's usually stands out, right? Because the SEC poses some of the greatest atmospheres in college baseball, but it's especially a gauntlet this year. You look at, you're playing 4 regional hosts from 2025 in the SEC on the road, plus a Mississippi State team who is the number 4 team in the country, led by Brian O'Connor in his first year. I mean, you look at, again, your road series are against number 23 Vandy, who was going into the postseason last year. They were the top seed, number 1 team in the country. You're at number 15 Tennessee, at Ole Miss, at number 4 Mississippi State, at number 13 Georgia. I think the road slate in the SEC, as always, but especially this year with the talent you play, is the hardest thing. And the thing I'm paying attention to. It's a good year to not have Texas, Auburn, Arkansas, or Alabama on your schedule. It's not a good year to miss Missouri. Missouri is going to be, once again, the worst team in the SEC. You don't have them on your schedule this year. So it's a good year to miss Texas, Auburn, Arkansas, and Alabama. Not so much Missouri. Diving in a little bit into some numbers overall, LSU plays 28 games this year against teams who finished in the top 50 in RPI last year. Only 4 of those 28 come in non-conference play, though. So it's kind of similar to, you have non-conference play. It's not as big as SEC play. We get that. It's not as stiff competition. I'm paying attention to those 2 games against Northeastern in week 3, and then, of course, in week 2, you have the Jacks Baseball Classic against Indiana, Notre Dame, and UCF. I think those 5 games are your toughest of the non-conference slate, the 25 non-conference games that you play this year. LSU plays 27 games against teams who made a regional last postseason, played 21 games against teams in the D1 baseball preseason top 25. Look, I think the Tigers, as normal, they're going to find a way to manage non-conference schedule. It's not that difficult outside of the Northeastern games and the Jacks Baseball Classic that I talked to you about earlier. So they'll manage the non-conference schedule well, as they pretty much do always in non-conference play leading up to SEC play. But going into SEC play, you have some questions. You have about a little over 20 games before March 13th where you have some questions you want to figure out. I think one of the main questions you want to figure out is you want to solidify your starting pitching rotation. Who are going to be the 3 guys that lock down a spot in this rotation? I think Friday, Saturday, as I've said before, it's going to be Casey Evans and Cooper Moore. But the Sunday role is still not known. I think Cooper Williams and William Schmidt are the 2 guys that you're looking at. Zach Cowan could factor into this situation, although I said yesterday I do believe that Zach Cowan will end up filling a bullpen role like he did last season as one of your best relievers down the stretch with Casey Evans in 2025. So I think that's the biggest question you want to answer, is who's going to be your Sunday guy. And then maybe lock down a spot, figure out who's the best defensive second baseman. We've talked about the competition at second base between Tanner Reeves and two transfers and Seth Dardar and Braden Simpson. You're going to see a lot of rotation in the non-conference between those guys at second base. You'll see some freshmen play at the DH position probably, and guys like Omar Cerna Jr. and Mason Braun, excuse me. And so you'll have that, but I think your two questions are, you want to figure out in the first a little over 20 games. So you have your first game February 13th, your first SEC game is March 13th. So you have a full month to figure out who's our Sunday guy, what are we doing at second base. You could go into SEC play just saying, okay, we're fine with a rotation. We're fine not having an everyday second baseman, but you don't know yet. You want to figure it out. I think, as I've said before, all three of those guys can hit. It's about who plays the best second base defensively. And then what are your most reliable arms out of the pen? You had two reliable arms, or you had multiple reliable arms that you can trust in, but your top two guys, and you knew it going into SEC play, were Casey Evans and Zach Cowan in 2025. And you knew you were going to utilize them a lot when it came to SEC play. Now you kind of want to figure out the same thing. Is it going to be Gavin Guidry and Maverick Rizzi? Is it going to be Jaden Newt? Is it going to be Devin Sheeran? Who are those top guys that you can trust going into March 13th? Again, you have a full month to figure all things out. That's my three questions are. My three questions you need to answer in the first month through the first plus 20 games in non-conference play. Sunday starter, second base. Who are your reliable arms out of the pen? That's what you need to figure out. And then I thought, so that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of schedule-wise. But I thought something we could also talk about is 2024. So you won a title in 2023, Jay Johnson's first national championship with LSU. And then in 2024, you made a regional. Eventually, you turned it around, but you struggled in 2024. First 15 games in SEC play, you started 3-12. You didn't start out well, and we kind of saw you made it to the Chapel Hill regional. You made it to a regional final. You started to turn it around, but we kind of saw that, right? We saw the drop off because you lose Paul Skeens, and you lose Dylan Cruz, and you lose Braden Joubert, Kay Beloso, Jordan Thompson, and other guys as well. Like, you lose all that talent, and then 2024, it didn't pan out, as far as you start 3-12 in SEC play. You kind of battle back, and make a regional and make a run. But how does that compare to 2026? Because you won the championship in 2025. Jay Johnson has said before he could take things from past seasons, maybe. But Jay Johnson's a guy, like, I just want to look at this season. I want to be where we are now. And that's a great sentiment. And of course I understand that. But I think when you talk about it, the team this go around that is defending a national championship in 2026 compared to the team in 2024 is more talented. And a lot of that is because of the returning experience you have. Yes, you lose Jared Jones, you lose Cade Anderson, you lose Anthony Ianson, you lose other guys as well. But think about what you have returning. Your top two arms out of the bullpen last year in Casey Evans and Zach Cowan, both of those guys are back. Okay, your entire outfield from 2025 is back outside of Josh Pearson, but Jake Brown, Chris Stanfield, and Derek Carriel are all back. You return your star shortstop and Steven Milam. You're looking forward to Cade Beatty's second year as a sophomore in college baseball. There are some guys that you had last year. Again, you're looking to, William Schmidt going from a freshman to a sophomore. Same for Maverick Rizzi. Same for Cade Beatty. And then you bring in these transfers who have contributed at their past programs, like a Zach York, who I really like a Trent Caraway, Cooper Moore, who was an ace at Kansas last year. And when you look at it, I think the difference between this season compared to 2024 is the experience you have coming back. Your entire outfield's coming back. Your best two arms out of the bullpen last year are coming back. Your shortstop's coming back. You have third base, second base, and first base. All of those positions DH, all those positions look different. But I think you have way more returning than you did in 2024. And I think that's a plus for this team to go out and contend to defend their title this year. Um, I wanted to look at some preseason rankings. So, what D1 baseball does, and I really like D1 baseball, what they do is every year they do their preseason awards and they do their top 50 players in each position going into the season. And I wanted to rattle off some numbers. This might be a lot, but D1 baseball, they finished their preseason position list ranking the top 50 players in college baseball in each position. They have Cade Beatty as the 15th best catcher in the country. Zach York as the 19th best first baseman. Braden Simpson as the 5th best second baseman in the country. Stephen Milam, the 5th best shortstop in the country. Trent Caraway, the 29th best third baseman. 3 top 70 outfielders. So all between Curiel's number 3, but also Stanfield and Brown. All of those guys are inside the top 70 outfielders in college baseball going into the season, according to D1. You have 2 top 50 starting pitchers in Kason Evans and Cooper Moore, and then you have 3 top 100 relievers to start the season. All of that, again, is according to the rankings, preseason rankings that D1 Baseball has released. So you have a lot of talent on this roster. Kason Evans and Derek Curiel are on the Golden Spikes Award preseason watch list for the best player in the country. Kason Evans and Derek Curiel are both on that preseason watch list. Derek Curiel is a first-team preseason All-American, while Kason Evans is a second-team preseason All-American. 5 players are preseason All-SEC selections for LSU, as Evans, Curiel, and Zach Cowan are on the first-team All-SEC preseason. And then LSU was picked the other day to win the SEC in the SEC preseason coaches poll. So when you look at it, this LSU roster, this LSU team is highly talented. They're highly touted. A lot of hype coming into this year. And I think the biggest thing that separates this go around defending a title from 2026 compared to 24 is the guys you have returning. You lost Paul Skeens, you lost Dylan Cruz, you lost Jordan Thompson, you lost Braden Jobert, you lost Cade Beloso. This year you have your entire outfield is returning. Your best 2 relievers are returning, and one of those guys is going to step up and be your starting ace in Kason Evans, your Friday night guy. But all the talent you have returning, I love what you've done in the portal, and I think it's going to be an extremely successful season for the Tigers. It's hard to give record predictions in baseball. But do I think this team can contend for a national championship? Absolutely. Absolutely I do. And I trust Jay Johnson, again, the best college baseball coach in the country. And I do think it's different this go around when you compare defending a title in 2024 to now doing it in 2026. I think the rosters are different. I think you have more talent returning, and I think it sets you up for success in 2026. So that is my LSU baseball preseason content for today. Again, we're only 3 days away from first pitch, folks. I cannot wait. I'm so pumped up. And yeah, it's just going to be a great one. Let me now take the opportunity to tell you about our wonderful daily sponsors here at the Babin on the Bayou show and the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. When you're talking about the team at Shield Heating and Cooling, you're talking about a team of experts with multiple decades of experience as experts in the AC industry. I love my audience. I love you guys for faithfully always tuning into the show. So I want to reward you for that. So if you call the best team in the business today at Shield Heating and Cooling, the number is 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U. You call the best team in the business today at Shield Heating and Cooling at that number. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and I'll be giving away free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home. Whether you have 1 AC system in your home or 4 or 5 AC systems in your home, it doesn't really matter. Call the best team in the business today. They're trustworthy, they're reliable, they're just the best. Call the team at Shield Heating and Cooling today at the number 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U, to take a part in this amazing giveaway as a sign of my gratitude towards you guys for always tuning in the show. Completely free to you, saving you money, and to show my gratitude to you guys for tuning in to the show. So I hope you'll take a part in this amazing giveaway. Again, that number is 22546 Bayou BAYOU, and that's Shield Heating and Cooling, your local comfort defenders. All right, we'll take a look quickly at some LSU football news and also some news from around LSU Athletics as well before we get out of here quickly. So former LSU linebacker Greg Penn has joined LSU football staff as a defensive analyst. Greg Penn was a 3-year starter at linebacker for LSU. He wore the coveted number 18 jersey for the Tigers in 2024. So Greg Penn has joined the staff as a defensive analyst, former Tiger. And then I wanted to make a point because I listened to some of my favorite guys, the guys over at Tingle and Co. They do a great job, and they kind of talk about this as well. But I feel like when you watched the Super Bowl the other night, right? When you watched the Super Bowl the other night, the thing that separated, the thing that determined the game, the thing that won the Seahawks the game was the trenches. Was the fact that the offensive line for the Patriots was atrocious, and then it was a great defensive performance by the front seven and the defensive line for the Seahawks that basically won them the Super Bowl, won them the World Championship. I think if you translate that here, if you translate that to LSU, what I'm saying is football is often won in the trenches. And when you look at the trenches for LSU in 2025, you had a bad offensive line that really cost you some games, that really hurt you a lot in some games. Now, of course, the whole offense hurt you, but especially the offensive line. And then I feel like you had a really good defense, a really great defense from Blake Baker in 2025, but I thought your front seven or your front four at times struggled to develop a pass rush. And I think one of the main things this offseason, you brought in a ton of transfer portal talent, but when you look in the trenches, you have Braylon Moore returning, you have Weston Davis returning, and then you bring in guys like Aluba and Devin Harper and Sean Tompkins to compete at the guard spots as well. And the biggest one that you made, the biggest addition that you made in the trenches on the offensive side was getting Jordan Seaton, one of the best offensive tackles in the country, the best offensive lineman, number one top offensive lineman in this year's transfer portal cycle. Getting him over from Colorado was huge. So your offensive line struggled. They were not good at all in 2025. You bring returners back in Braylon Moore and Weston Davis and Solomon Thomas as well, the borderline brothers. But really, you bring over, I believe you brought over 8 offensive linemen. The top guys to pay attention to, of course, are Jordan Seaton, Aluba, guys like Devin Harper, guys like Sean Tompkins, Darren Stry, guys like that to pay attention to. So I feel like, again, when I watched that game the other night, you pay attention to the trenches. The trenches won the game for the Seahawks, and they lost the game for the Patriots. And when you look at it, you made some improvement in the portal. And then I love what you've done on the defensive line in the portal. You brought in the number one edge rusher in the portal, and Prince Uman Mielen, who had 9 sacks as an Ole Miss Rebel last year. You brought in Jordan Ross also as an edge rusher, who was a former 5-star prospect, very highly touted out of high school. The point in mentioning this is the trenches they won the game the other night. They won the Seahawks the Super Bowl the other night. And I feel like we see that a lot. We saw that with the Miami Hurricanes making the national championship this season. Miami had one of the best front fours defensively in all of college football, and that really led them and propelled them to making a national championship game. I mean, you look at Indiana's front four as well. The point is, you win the game in the trenches. We see it all the time in college football, and I think when you look at it, I love what you've done on the defensive side, bringing in Uman Mielen, bringing in Jordan Ross. You have Gabe Relaford back. You brought in some guys at defensive tackle like Steph Green from Clemson, stuff like that. And then on the offensive line, which is the position that you have to pay the most attention to, that position group, going into spring practice, going into fall practice, going into the season, because I think you obviously have a bona fide stud at left tackle. You have a center that I trust. I trusted Braylon Moore when he's healthy. I think right tackle is a question. You don't know about right tackle right now. You have Weston Davis returning from last year, but I didn't think Weston Davis wasn't really good at right tackle for LSU in 2025, and I think I trust Lane Kiffin and I trust Eric Wolford, the new offensive line coach, to figure that out. But again, I just noticed that the trenches the other night were the difference, and the trenches so often are the difference in college football, and I think it could be the same thing for the Tigers in 2026 in football. But I also think that Lane Kiffin's scheme helps because the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands really quickly. It's not just sit back and let the quarterback tee off on you. And you also brought in quarterbacks with mobility like a Sam Levitt, Landon Clark, Hassan Longstreet. All three of those quarterbacks are willing to use their legs and willing to run the football. So I think that helps your offensive line. So the scheme of Lane Kiffin's offense helps offensive line play as well. But I think that those are the things that I'm looking at and paying attention to, and I thought that was really good to point out, especially because we saw the other night, if you watched the Super Bowl, the difference in the game was the play in the trenches, and that's what won the Seahawks a world championship. Uh, I wanted to shout out real quick. I wanted to shout out real quick LSU women's softball. So they started. They played this, their opening weekend. The Tiger Classic was this past weekend. They went an undefeated 6-0. I believe they beat NC State twice. They beat Nevada twice. They beat Illinois and they beat Lamar. That's what I believe that was the games they played. I know they finished 6-0. That was a good start to the season for Beth Tarina and company. They play Thursday through Sunday in the Clearwater, Florida Invitational against some really good teams. I know they play 5 games in a span of 4 days against, I think, Oklahoma State is one of them, Nebraska, UCLA. So some Duke, some Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams as well. Excuse me. So that'll be something to pay attention to this weekend. But specifically in Baton Rouge with LSU baseball, and then with the huge game for LSU women's basketball this Saturday night. Baton Rouge is going to be, it's going to be fun. BR is going to be fun this weekend, and I can't wait for it. LSU baseball, of course, returning, but you add that on to the college game day coming to town for a top 10 matchup between LSU and South Carolina in the PMAC Saturday night. That's going to be a huge one as well. So I can't wait. It's going to be a very, very exciting weekend for the city of Baton Rouge when it comes to LSU athletics. LSU men's basketball is back in action tonight against the top 25 team in John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks. That game is at home in the PMAC tonight at 8 p.m. on the SEC Network. If you want to pay attention to that one, I've said it again, I'll say it before. Season's over for LSU men's basketball. I don't know what you do with Matt McMahon except get rid of him because of what he's done in 4 years. I mean, you just look at his resume, look what he's done in 4 years at LSU, and I don't know what you do except for get rid of him. But they do play tonight against Arkansas at 8 p.m. on the SEC Network, and I'm just pumped for this weekend, man. I can't wait for Friday to get here. I really cannot wait for Friday to get here. It is going to be LSU baseball. It's like a second Christmas for me. For me as an LSU fan, LSU football and LSU baseball are my top 2 loves. And it's like LSU football in September is like a Christmas for me. But LSU baseball is also like a Christmas for me. And I've been waiting for the season to start. I've been waiting for the Tigers to get back out on the diamond. And it is just going to be a wild ride. And trust me, when baseball season starts, this show, I'm really excited for where we can take this show and what we can do with this show when we actually get games on the field, getting to analyze it, getting to talk about it, and I'm really looking forward to that. I will say, tentatively, and this could change, so this is tentative, but I think for the show on Friday, right now what I'm thinking about is we're going to move the time up, because I thought about we release all of these shows Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. They come out every day on YouTube. But most likely LSU baseball is still going to be in the middle of a game at 5 p.m. on Friday. And I didn't want to do that. So I think what we're going to do right now, LSU baseball's game, first pitch is at 2 Friday opening day against Milwaukee. I think we're going to release our Friday show at 1 o'clock. So an hour before the game, we're going to release the show. And it'll be just dedicated to baseball, predictions, opening day. It'll just be dedicated to that. I think we'll call it our pregame show. We'll call it our pregame show leading up to opening day. So I think we're gonna move the show up to 1 o'clock on Friday ahead of that 2 o'clock game, first game of the season for LSU baseball against the University of Milwaukee. But again, I cannot wait. I'm so pumped. Opening day is only 3 days away. That's all I have for the Babin on the Bayou show on this Tuesday. I hope you folks are doing well. Remember, like the video, share the video, tell your friend about the show. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed to that already as well. I love you guys. I thank you guys for tuning in. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. God bless. Go Tigers. And have a great one.